Did it count down to the, or yeah, it did. Greetings.
Hello, I guess we're on.
I think so.
Oof.
I hope today's sound quality is a little bit better.
Oh, well, make sure our mics are closer.
It was just,
Maybe.
I don't know, the sound quality,
Sound-
I don't know if the mic was just not, anyway, we're good. Hopefully we're good.
Yes. We're feeling good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Been eating well?
Trying to, when I feel like eating. You know, right now I've been making a lot of egg drop soup. That's comforting and
Ooh, it's nutritional.
it's nutritional, and but it's, I mean, it's not a lot, but I mean, it's still good.
Just to go off on a tangent a little bit in food,
Mm-hmm.
I brought her some eggplants. And our daughter came and had some eggplant the other day and said, "What's the nutritional value of eggplant?"
Okay, what is it?
Oh my gosh, I looked it up. There were like 4 different things. It is so good for you. It's got fiber, vitamins, minerals. They found it like it has antioxidants that break down free radicals. So it's good for that. It's good for diabetics.
Okay.
And it takes care of cholesterol because it has so much fiber in it. Hey, I froze a lot of eggplant. We're going to eat a lot of egg. Once a week, we're going to have eggplant. And we have been eating a lot because God has provided a lot of eggplants in our garden this year to keep us healthy. And goodness knows, it's going to lead right into our topic.
Mm-hmm.
We need to stay healthy.
We do.
And we were just talking about all the different diseases and problems that we have had with food. I mean, we have meat being recalled, vegetables being recalled, mosquitoes carrying encephalitis, we have monkeypox, and that just goes along with the other ones like dengue fever that we've had hanging around. So I started, and I took a microbiology course in college, which I really thoroughly loved. And actually I had a brainstorm that we should set up a little, get a gelatin and put in maybe some like a beef or chicken and see if we could grow some bacteria on it. Because you could, if you get a food source, you can grow bacteria and be kind of cool. I wish I could bring my microscope so we could actually pop it on and show it, because it's kind of neat. But with the bacteria and stuff, and you have bacteria and you have viruses. And then I threw in that thing about phages, which is a virus that attacks bacteria. So that's kind of interesting. But talking about diseases, and most of these are called microbes. And I discovered a really nice website called microbeonline.com. And they have pictures of all the different types of cells and microbes. And then you talk about the different types of cells. There are, and I have that, I gave you a bunch of copies of different things. They are eukaryotic cells and prokaryotic cells. And eukaryotic cells, and I'm telling you, if you want, this came from the Microbes Online. It's really, really good. They are an excellent group of people that did that. Those cells are cells that like make up our body, the eukaryotic cells, because they have all the Golgi, and you can study all the parts of a cell. All right, that's for life. That's what we have. Okay? And then you have prokaryotic cells. And these are cells that you find with bacteria, okay? And viruses are even a little bit different than this, but these are prokaryotic. And you'll notice they don't have as much stuff. They have a little bit of stuff. And what they do is when they attack, their DNA takes over ours. And those ribosomes that are in there, ribosomes contain what's called RNA. And DNA is deoxyribonucleic acid. And that's our genetic material. It what makes me 79% from the boot of Italy. you know? So that's where it comes from. And that is in our nucleus. That's our little package that says, this is what we are, this is what's going to happen to us. But you have to get that message out, and that message is carried by what was called ribonucleic acid, and it is a messenger. And then you have transfer RNA. And so one sends the message and the other goes out and say, hey, protein, hook up this way so you can make, okay, we need some kidney cells. You know, here you are as a little developing embryo, and all these different tissues are coming from that genetic material that you got from your parents. It's kind of cool when you think about it. It's miraculous the way it works. And it's all built in there. Our eye color, you know, how tall we're going to be, what color our hair, you know, how big my nose will be, you know, if I'm going to wrinkle it at 10 years old or something. That is what it does. So that is in our eukaryotic cells, and the prokaryotic cells have the DNA and the ribosomes. They don't have all the other fancy stuff because they use us to do that. So all of the diseases that we're talking about come from these cells that live off of another living thing. I guess you could call them parasites because they take over, you know, and there's some really dangerous ones, and you can talk about, there's the bacterium, which comes in 3 different shapes. And you have the circles, they're called cocci, or coccus. Yeah, they're cool. Isn't that cool? Another picture that came from there. They are so cool. And they have staphylococcus. Now, if I talk about these, we're going to say, oh, staph infection. Exactly. Because when you say you have staph or strep, you are talking about that disease that came from those bacterium. So you got staphylococcus, diplococcus, which is a pair of them together, and streptococcus, and you have pneumococcus. Well, if you say pneumococcus, where does it come from? Well, guess it's going to give you pneumonia. So you know that. And you don't want a staph because they're hard to kill. And then you have the bacilli, which are they look like little cubes or oblong. Yep, the middle one. And they have, some of them, they have little cocobacilli and vibrio and different ones, but the bacillium also, they have their own little diseases. And some of these are kind of nasty because when I took microbiology, they, if they get in unfavorable conditions, they form an endospore. It's like a hard case. And then they stay dormant until all of a sudden they get awoken by, oh, I'm in good conditions, moisture, darkness, and there's food. And it could be a human, like up your nose or wherever. And then they start to propagate. So those are kind of dangerous. And I wonder about some of these diseases that we've had recently, if they've walked across the borders a little bit and have been dormant, and then they find us. Anyway, and then the last group is called the spirella, and that looks sort of like corkscrews. Yep, little circles. And these are the spirochetes. And one that is prominent that people will know about is syphilis. Syphilis is a spirochete. And you know how dangerous that one is, because it's a nasty sexually transmitted disease that over the years, it eventually affects your brain. It makes its way to the brain.
I thought bacteria weren't contagious.
Well, in
general, can you catch a bacteria?
Well, salmonella. Okay, salmonella is a bacterial disease. Where do you get it?
Well,
Turtles, eggs. Because you can touch these, but if they get inside you, what do they need to propagate? Here's how it happens.
I mean, you can't catch a kidney infection, and that's bacteria.
No, you can't. You can't.
Pneumonia's not usually contagious, is it?
No, but if you inhale and if you get weak and it makes its way into your body, because I had pneumonia several times, and it usually starts out with a sinus infection. So if somebody has a cold, which is a droplet infection, which is a rhinovirus,
Which is a virus.
exactly, and then you get the secondary infection because you've become weak. And a bacteria, you know what it needs? And like I said, it would be fun to grow some of these. It needs a source of food, and it usually likes warmth, and it likes darkness. Why? Because sunlight kills a lot of this stuff.
But some apparently bacteria are contagious. Syphilis is contagious.
Because it's sexually transmitted, it has to go directly from one person to another in a moist, dark, warm, and that's where it usually goes to. Okay, and that's how it's carried. So, you know, if I had a staph infection, now, I got a staph infection when our daughter had her tonsils out. And I got it from a hospital.
That's a lot of times
And
where you
that's
pick
it.
them up.
And
A lot of times.
And I think I've mentioned it, I didn't clean the toilet seat off, and the toilet looked very clean. And I sat, and that was there. So it was contact. I got the contact, and I got it. And I sat on it, and guess where it ended up? On my buttocks. So I knew right where I got it, because that's where the infection was. Because all it needs is to get on that skin and have it dark and warm and food. And it's like, oh, good. I've got a
We're
place.
subjected to bacteria all the time.
That's right. But you don't always, I mean, there's bacteria in all the soil and all the garden stuff that we do. But we wash it off, and it doesn't get into darkness and warmth and moisture. It needs that stuff. So
So
we,
bacterials can be contagious.
yeah, you could well, yeah, syphilis is, yeah.
Depends on what it is.
And how you in contact with it. And well, most of like rhinovirus, the droplet infections, they're in the air.
But see, then you go into a virus.
Then you go to the virus, and that's a little bit different than a bacteria. And bacteria, how do we fight off bacteria if we get a bacterial infection? Antibiotics. Because we can do that. They will fight off penicillin, amoxicillin. You can fight it. One of the great natural things for that is honey. And you gave me that little container of honey. I mean, that's really good. If you have a staph infection, you could put honey on it. It's got a natural. So bacteria, you can take care of it. Cleanliness, cleaning and washing things. I know people were going to think I'm crazy, but since COVID, I bought, I forget what it is, dish detergent, and it has citrus in it, antibacterial. And you know what? That's in I put it in all our hand sanitizer, all of our liquid soap for all the sinks. That's all I use. If it's good enough for my dishes, it's good enough for my hands. You know, it's like, so that, and there was another thing that was going through there in my brain, and it just went out. But no, that's
But then
It's
that can be
interesting.
another tangent to go down because, you know, they say that they've tested some of these antibacterial soaps and gels and all this stuff,
Yeah.
and it's not really
I
the
don't
level
like
and
those
stuff,
gels.
but-
I don't like those hand sanitizers that have, my hands come out sticky, you know, it's got a film on it. And to me, that's even worse, because now everything's gonna stick to it.
Main thing is to wash your hands.
Wash your hands.
Constantly.
And I like something that has citrus, because that acetic acid is really good at killing bacteria and stuff. I like that type of stuff. But yes, so the bacteria, and there's a lot of things that with bacteria that you have to just be careful. They're all over.
Yeah, because they say that everybody's like got staph with them, but it doesn't always like pop up and you don't get
Exactly,
infections.
you don't get
and stuff.
infection. When you have your pre-op, what do? They check for MRSA, because that is part of like a staph infection, and they don't want it in your nose. And even while I was in the hospital after my surgery, they're still checking. I'm like, okay, it was negative. So this is, these are the basics. And we could, I mean, you can do a whole study on all of these. And this, this next page, I'd have to look up all of those different ones. You can tell which one, like diphtheria, you can tell which ones are bacteria and listeria.
Because of the
Yeah.
biological name.
Yeah, the name, yeah. And so you can pretty much find out which ones are bacterial. And I just ran this off. I thought it was kind of interesting with leprosy. That's a bacterium too. It's like, oh, and tuberculosis and stuff like that. But, I mean, we could you could spend days and days on, and we could do different ones.
Well, just looking down at, the first one is Actinomyces israeli.
So where do you think that came from? Probably Israel.
That's interesting.
Now, that's the first name in that, Actinomyces israeli. Actinomyces is the genus, and the Israeli is the species, the exact thing. So, or it could be the last name of the person who discovered it. So, we could take time and look each of these up sometimes. Now, look at listeria. We have diphtheria, they've talked about that, listeria, neonatal meningitis, and sepsis. And we hear that all the time, if you get sepsis.
If you get sepsis, but that sepsis can come from, it is not always listeria, is it?
No, but they all come from this.
Because, I mean, you can get a kidney infection and get sepsis.
Yes.
Or urinary tract
Yep.
infection and get sepsis.
Well-
You can get, I know my mother, yeah, because, I mean, my mother, being, when she had, you have to watch older people, and especially the ones that have, like, Alzheimer's and stuff, because they can't tell you when something's going on.
Oh,
A lot
I
of
never
times
thought
they
of
make
that.
noise. A lot of times they'll be like, oh, they start having these pains and stuff, and a lot of
don't
times it was
know.
a urinary tract.
Yeah, UTIs.
But you can get sepsis from that.
Oh, yes. Yep.
So
Well,
sepsis is just getting into your blood, right?
Well,
basically.
Yeah, it's like this, it's infection. So these are etiological agents, and these are the diseases depending on where they are attacking. So it depends on where they are in your body and how they call it. So it's kind of scary.
But listeria is related to food. A lot. Is
Yep.
that the only way you can get listeria?
I don't know. We'll have to look that up. We should because listeria is one of those right now that they have listed.
They do.
And that's with the food. So we need to spend some time on that.
Listeria is coming out in the meats?
Oh my gosh,
The
yeah,
deli meats and stuff?
they
I think it's some of the
recalled
deli meats and all.
yeah, they recalled the
With
deli meats, listeria.
So if you get that, and then where does it come from?
Well, it got contaminated, got infected with some of that bacteria someplace. Wherever they cured that meat, it was not clean. And that's why if you look at restaurants, and they have to be inspected, what do they like to see in most restaurants? Stainless steel. Because stainless steel, it's hard for bacteria to grow on stainless steel.
Okay.
That almost leads to another topic. Anyway, but porcelain's a little bit different.
Because it's porous, too,
Yeah, you got
right?
some porous
Things
to
that
it,
you-
yeah. So they want stainless steel, and they want to make sure it's clean, and they want to make sure you don't have other things in your place. So they go in and inspect. Well, all you need is somebody who got sick or coughed or had some illness or walked in or didn't clean something off, and all that's going to be contaminated.
It's interesting.
It is, and just as an aside, that has to do with church a little bit. And not silver water. Silver is a microban element or metal, okay? You can drink silver water.
We do colloidal silver.
Yeah, colloidal silver.
We take colloidal silver.
Yes. You don't want to make it as a steady diet. No, but
But it's good for infections.
It
and
is
various
good
things,
for
and it's good
infection.
for-
Where do you get yours?
I order it,
Do you? I'm gonna have to get some.
but yeah, but you can put it on your
Oh, you can put it
sores
on
and-
eyes for conjunctivitis. It's really good. So when we have communion at church, and you can drink out of what's called the common cup, which is the wine, okay, that's been consecrated. Common cups, some churches have silver. And my thought was, oh, they wipe it, and then the next person comes and drinks and you wipe it. But silver is microband.
Still not gonna trust it. Still not gonna trust it. Sorry.
It's like, well,
Sorry.
so now we have a new priest in charge, and he's got a gold chalice, and I'm like, oh, I wonder if that's microband. So I looked it up, and it is. So the interesting thing about
Go ahead.
about all these metals, even copper, is they're using nano bits of this material, like your colloidal silver, all right? Although I don't think I'd want to drink colloidal gold. It'd just be way too expensive. But, I mean, there you have it. So your metals are really good, except I could not see a restaurant being made out of silver, but stainless steel. So that's an interesting, just aside for that, because I found that while I was looking it up. I'm like, I've got to check up to find out, if other metals have a microband in it. And they do. I mean, they're talking about copper and gold and silver. And even, I think, zinc was included in some of that, too.
Well, zinc is something that
Yeah.
you take to fortify your immune system. You don't take gold to fortify it. And you don't take copper to fortify it.
No,
But
yeah,
zinc is one,
yeah,
and colloidal silver definitely.
silver, yes,
Mhm.
yep. And you can use it, you can put drops of that silver solution in your eyes for conjunctivitis.
Well, I've seen silver put like on a scrape or a cut, and it's like it heals it up in no time. I mean,
Wow.
it really is amazing. But yeah,
Yeah,
so
so we could pick, and this is anthrax. I mean, years ago, we had a big problem with anthrax, and what was it, the only antibiotic? Cipro. Cipro was the antibiotic that was good for anthrax at that time. So,
see, that's one reason though that doctors do not want to give antibiotics so much right now, people, is because if you get resistant, then they can't help you, because I mean, if you run out of antibiotics to go to, and only certain antibiotics, if you'll notice, like if you have a urinary tract infection or if you have strep and all, they'll send all this stuff off to see what you do have,
so they can
and so that
trigger
they can
it.
treat it appropriately. But if you're so used to going in and getting an antibiotic every time, then you become resistant. So then they have to go to the next one. And then if that's the case, then, so they really do want your natural immunity to fight a lot of this. So bacteria is, I guess a lot of your immunities can fight, but there's some things it can't fight. It's got to have the antibiotic.
Yeah,
And you just don't want to become resistant.
To-
So
to-
if there's things that you can do when you do find yourself getting sick, the colloidal silvers, the natural things, the zincs, the this, and try to weather through some things, then when you really do need it,
That's right.
your body, it will be better for you. If that's the way I'm understanding it.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Well, I'll give you an example.
Natural immunity is always best, right?
I got that, and I had a spot in my hand. Our autumn olives have ripened. Loaded, the tree's loaded.
And if you did not understand the Southern English on that, that's autumn olives.
Autumn olives. Did I do southern?
But it was like your Southern Italian. The autumn olives. Autumn
Autumn olive.
Autumn olives. Okay.
Yes, they're an invasive, but they're good. And I got pictures of these. It was loaded, this tree is loaded, and I thought, last year I had nothing.
And we didn't have a bad winter.
No, and so this year it's like, they're clumps like grapes. So I went out and picked them because I want to put them in my jelly. And I ended up with
Needing
getting spiked
some,
in here. That's from the Band-Aid. And that little spike, I was a little concerned because you get puncture wounds out in the woods.
You
And
can
yeah.
bacteria.
Yeah, bacteria. And I've had my tetanus shot. It's
Okay.
got 3 more years on it. Again, one of those that you have to be careful about, because when you get a puncture, guess where that bacteria ends up? It ends up in a warm, dark, moist place with food. And it uses you. And I don't really want tetanus or
You don't want to
lockjaw.
be a petri dish,
I
do
do
you?
not want to be.
Okay.
So that was getting really sore and red. And so at first I tried the regular Bactroban, the little, didn't work. So what I did do is I made a mixture of baking soda and salt, a lot of salt, pasty. And I put it on that. And I actually poked that hole with the spoon that I was putting on so I could make it bigger. And I had it on there for about 5 minutes, and it's going away now. I mean, it was hard, and it was puffed up yesterday, and it's not
So you
hard.
need to sit down and write just all this wisdom down that you have. Little things like that you do. Because, I mean, those are, yeah.
Actually, I have a chart. I have one
Yeah,
on
but
my,
there's things that you do and you need to write this wisdom down and pass it along to us,
the younger ones, my younger
Well,
sages.
Yeah, because, I mean, these are helpful things.
They-
Because, I mean, you don't know when you might need this, because you may not have something nearby.
You know, I was, snake bites, we have bad snakes, and I was even thinking, gee, I bet you this would work on snake bites if you couldn't get to the doctors real fast.
Depending on the snake.
Depending on, but to get that and because it works on an osmosis. It sucks the poison out because the poison's concentrated, and you've got salt, which kills bacteria, and the baking soda, which makes it a paste and gives it spaces, and it sucks it out. I've used that same mixture on spider bites. Because spider bites, you can actually see the tendrils of the poison. Because spiders don't really bite you. They inject a toxin to digest you, and then they suck the food out. So,
Makes it even more exciting to get.
doesn't it though, to get that? Wow, the time went
But,
by fast.
so, one question before we go then. So what is baking soda made from?
I have to look it up. It's a calcium, is it calcium
Because-
carbonate?
well, and
I
they-
think it's a calcium carbonate,
That's what I
isn't it?
think too,
It's calcium
but-
carbonate, yes.
But,
Yeah, it's a
'cause, you know,
carbonate.
Indians used a lot of poultices.
Yes. Well,
I mean, they healed a lot of people through it.
Mud works in the same, I know you think, oh, there's bacteria. I remember I was a kid, I got stung by a yellow jacket down near the creek. And it's like, just my hand was going bigger, and I took mud and just slapped it on it. And it sucked the poison out because it went through the process of osmosis. The poison was concentrated in my hand and not in the mud. So the mud, it wanted to go where it wasn't so crowded. So it went into the mud. So you could make a poultice out of
And
that.
even though the mud was dirty, it
Even
didn't
though
affect you.
yes, right, because it was something else that it was working on. But, yeah, I could have gotten a secondary bacterial infection, but I was fine.
I mean, it's just interesting. So the only thing, you know, so we're looking at maybe delving into this for a few weeks.
Yeah, we
people,
could cover
because,
each
we
different
didn't-
disease.
We did not even cover very much.
No.
But if we can explain to you what you're doing, encourage your autoimmune system, and for you to use your own natural.
And eat eggplant.
Well, eat living things. I've always been told,
And
if
if
you
you
eat
can-
living things instead of processed, it
Yeah.
helps your body to thrive.
And that was-
living things are the things that are around the edges of the grocery store, the fruits,
The
the
vegetables.
vegetables. I mean, even the meats, the dairy. I mean, they're more living than like processed, boxed, canned food. Frozen food to me is better than canned food in the grocery
Yes,
store because
yeah.
of the salt. You can
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
still, but anyway. So living helps you to live.
And if you can grow some of your own, do that, because it is, you know, you go to your garden and you pick. And like I said, I only plant basically what we can eat. And God provided the autumn olives that are there, and you can eat those too.
All right, guys, we'll see you next week with
More.
maybe viruses. I don't know, or more
Oh.
on bacteria.
Yep.
We'll be back and going to continue.
Oh, I think so. Viruses, and then we can go over different categories and different ones.
All
That'll be
right, we'll
fun.
see you later.
Stay healthy. It is just